Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you get your podcast, which is on YouTube. I am your host this week, Dan Clayton of DCS Media, and joining me is the Wolfman himself, except when he doesn't have a shave like he has now, Mr. Pratt Productions.
Not even a minute into this, and we're catching strays. Okay. Wow. Okay, well,
Oh
yeah.
man,
Stole my line as well. Good morning, afternoon,
no,
evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Double Feature Podcast.
yeah, I forgot to say that. I forgot to say what the actual podcast was, didn't I? Episode 7. This is. We are today, as you guessed on the opening gag, covering Wolfman, which is the first kind of actual film I saw in 2025, because obviously the beginning of the year is always a bit quiet. We didn't really know what to do, did we? We were almost going to make this like a sort of behind the mic episode, weren't we? If you remember in our
Yeah.
notes. But then we were like, oh, Wolfman, this kind of, we could talk about that. And I'm actually happy we've decided on that because there's actually a fair bit I want to talk about with it. I've got a few things I can talk about with it. Just pre-word of warning as well with this one. Uh, I've had a bit of a cold the past few weeks, not past few weeks, the past few days. Sorry, it's making me a bit loopy as you can tell. But I've had a bit of a. You can hear. I feel a bit. I sound a bit bummed. So yeah, it's a bit. But it was worse the other day. I sounded like RFK the other day. So yeah. Anyway, I've just rambled on for like it feels like 2 hours. So let's get on. So, part one, the
Yes.
current movie news. So, I'll let you start this one.
Alrighty, let's crack straight into part one, the current what's going on in film and TV. I want to start with a film. I'm going to start with a film I watched yesterday, so it's pretty fresh on my mind. That is the new Falcon movie, Captain America, Brave New World. It's a Falcon movie. Let's be real.
Yeah.
As a Falcon movie, it's pretty much as good as you'd want it to be. It's
Hmm.
not Captain America movie. It's not on the level of the other
Yeah.
Cap films. Overall,
Yeah.
I'd say it was a pretty solid movie. Definitely one of the. It's just like the main problem with it though is the trailer gives away way too much.
Yeah.
If
I've
you
heard
go
like
into
I heard
this
like the hot.
movie, oh yeah,
I have heard like, obviously the Red Hulk's in it. Isn't it basically just that one scene in the film? Isn't that basically what it is?
pretty much. It's just like the film builds up to this kind of like I guess we'll stick a spoiler alert on this one, but we don't usually do spoilers for the current stuff,
Hmm.
but I kind of have to at this point. But
It's Marvel,
it's like the whole movie builds up to this kind of twist of Thunderbolt Ross turning into Red Hulk, and if you go into this movie not having watched a trailer, like this will be genuinely a really good twist for the film. But Disney
Hmm.
ruined it in the marketing and gave it to you early, and it's just like, well,
Well
the
done.
point. I believe
Yeah.
one of the Rousseau brothers called that out recently about how it's a really good movie that builds up to this twist that Disney already gave away. So
Yeah. It's a bit. Yeah. It's a bit kind of a bit
yeah,
naff.
but otherwise, it's actually a pretty solid movie.
Mhm.
Sure, it's not as good as the other Captain America films, but it wasn't gonna be. But
Yeah.
it was still a solid Marvel outing, and honestly, I'm quite excited for the next few. I'm excited for I think Thunderbolts looks pretty okay. Fantastic Four has a really nice look to it as well.
I am looking forward to Fantastic Four, to be fair. Even though I don't really care about Marvel at the minute. I am looking forward to that when it comes
Are
out.
you going to watch Fantastic Four?
Probably, yeah.
We
That
could
I
do
want.
that one as a
I probably will.
spotlight.
Oh, definitely, yeah. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
because that'll be an interesting one. Because I've been waiting for a good Fantastic Four for a long time.
Yeah, for like 30 years, isn't it?
The last one was just awful, so we need a good one. But
We don't talk about Fan
it was
Stick.
far from fantastic. Fantastic. But
Oh man.
anyway, let's get back on track. What have you got to talk about?
Um a fair bit. This, vi- this video is sponsored by Matchmakers. I mean, it is the Valentine's episode, so we're not these aren't the only matchmakers on on the podcast speech. All of them just fell out as well. Right. In terms of the stuff I've got to talk about, a lot of it, I think you go first because a lot of it is like Oscar-y stuff, and I've got like a load of films to discuss. So I think you go through what else you got to do, and then we'll kind of converge on the Oscar stuff.
Okay, yeah. So we got two more pieces. First of all, I want to talk about a TV show. For those of you who were fans of the TV show Lost back in the day, this is probably like the newest thing as good as Lost. This is a TV show called From. It's
Uh,
it's it's led by the guy from Lost, famous for screaming his son's name every other scene. But yeah, it's a really interesting TV show. The premise is that people end up in this kind of town that you can't leave, and it seems perfectly normal town during the day, but at night these monsters, these monstrous people come out of the forest to hunt you, and there's so many different mysteries wrapped up in this show. 3 seasons on, we're still getting more questions than answers, but it is very it's
engaging?
very, yeah, it's engaging. It's a really good show. It doesn't rely on big stars to carry it. Like the most famous guy in it is this one guy from Lost who was kind of a who wasn't even like a main character. He was a lower one. Everyone else is basically an unknown. But
Complete unknown.
and and it's just it's a horror show and a mystery show, and the horror it does it very well. Like it's for me, it's one of the scariest things I've seen with the way it kind of presents itself with the suspense and a lot of the different aspects of it. Even if it's not necessarily as like it's not like super jump scary or anything. It's not like a lot of like horror movies where it's like slasher kill kind of stuff. It's like it's got its own
Hmm.
kind of like feel to it that is
Oh yeah.
just really terrifying at times. And I think it's one of those shows that like it's easy not to hear about because I practically never hear people talk about it. But
To be fair, I
it's
haven't heard of it
really
until you
good.
mentioned it.
It's a really good show. I would recommend it.
Hmm.
It's it's 3 seasons down. I think a fourth season's coming maybe next year. But I definitely recommend. Very, very solid show. If you
Oh,
like
yeah.
horrors and mysteries and honestly, it's such a cracked show. It's just like as soon as you think you're gonna figure things out, like something new comes along, and it's just it messes with your mind as much as it messes with the characters' minds. But no, really good show. That's From. Really love it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And there's another show you wanted to mention that's recently ended, I believe.
Yes, on Thursday, so that was the 13th, the final episodes of possibly just my favorite piece of media to exist came out. And that is Cobra Kai.
Hey!
I love Cobra Kai so much. I mean, the Karate Kid films are great, but they're not like the my favorite thing in the world. But Cobra Kai, basically this is what legacy sequeling should be. Like they take these characters from the old Karate Kid movies. They there's kind of the idea of the whole series as a whole is that the idea is that it follows Johnny Lawrence after like 34 years after his loss to Daniel LaRusso in the final of the first movie. And the
Mhm.
idea of the first season, it kind of flips the script of what if Johnny was actually the good guy and all of that, and really Daniel was kind of the bully of it. Johnny reopens the Cobra Kai dojo, taking on a new student, almost like how Miyagi took on Daniel LaRusso. But obviously, when Daniel sees that Cobra Kai is reopened, that sparks a little bit of friction between him and Johnny, and the whole karate war starts up again. And through every season, you get all these new characters and returning old characters coming in. It builds up the story of Cobra Kai again. It gives a lot of characters the kind of depth they never got in the movies, like John Kreese. Like he gets so much more out of this TV show than in the movies. It's super engaging. There's great character work, great plots. I just think the fight scenes were amazing, like visually. I'm a sucker for a good martial arts fight scene, and some of the fight
Mhm.
scenes in this, whether it's the one-on-one tournament matches or like the all-out brawls between like 20 students, is just amazing. And it recently ended. I binged the final 5 episodes all on Thursday when it came out. I don't think I've seen a show wrap up this perfectly in a very long time. Like
It's kind
because
of the opposite of Lost. It's kind of the opposite of
yeah,
Lost, which didn't end satisfyingly.
yes,
This
yeah,
this
the
ultimately
lost
did.
ending was certainly something, but
Yeah.
yeah, with Cobra Kai, because they knew they wanted to end it after the 6 seasons, they managed to write basically a perfect ending for the show, where absolutely everything gets resolved the way you'd want it to. Everything is
Hmm.
just so nicely wrapped up. There's so many feel good moments in it. Honestly, Cobra Kai may just be my favorite thing because I just it has this unpredictable nature throughout the most of the 6 seasons, and I there's so much about it to love, honestly. So if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, check it out. It's on Netflix. Brilliant show. Would recommend. 10 out of 10.
I know a few people. I know a few people who love it. I think my dad loves Cobra Kai. Yeah. I heard that the ending. It was really really good ending as well.
Yeah, really great. Just loved it so much.
That's really good. Is that everything you've got to
That
talk
is
about?
everything I've got, I think.
Right. It's time to get on because it's also the beginning of the year, and also obviously, as we said, not a lot of films come out at the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
but it is award season, and I've been trying to watch, particularly with the Oscars. The Oscar nominations have come out, Best Picture nominations have come out. You've kind of got an idea of like some of the awards frontrunners based on like the Golden Globes and the BAFTAs and the other award ceremonies. So I've tried to watch as many of the Oscar nominated films and a lot of the Best Picture nominees as possible. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because there's a fair few here. So, Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan film. I quite liked it. It's James Mangold who did Dial of Destiny and Logan. But he also did the Johnny Cash movie, Walk the Line. So, and also Johnny Cash is in that film as well. So that's two Mangold films with Johnny Cash, which is pretty funny. But yeah, Complete Unknown, relatively standard music biopic, but it's well made. Great performances, great music. I've been listening a lot to Bob Dylan as of late because of it, and it's kind of a it does what it says. It does what it says on the tin and does it very well. So it's kind of like the benchmark film, I'd say. Next, I've got Flow, which is up for Best Animated Feature and also Best International. It's a really sweet little animated film with no dialogue at all. It's just visuals and music. And although I think The Wild Robot's probably going to win, it would be really cool to see this win. This like really indie production win that category, that'd be really cool to see. Next up is Anora, which I'm actually going to say for part three. I have this spoilers lined up for when we talk about part three, which I should have mentioned probably will be because it's been Valentine's Day. We're going to talk about romance films, and Honora is sort of on that wavelength. So I'm going to talk about that later. So
Okay.
pin in
Yeah.
that. Next, oh, next up is Amelia Perez, which has got the most nominations of this award season 13 nominations for the Oscars. That's the same as Oppenheimer, for God's sake. And this was an endurance test. Right, Ranty Dan's coming out now. Right, so this film, like, it's about like this Mexican cartel boss who, in order to like change their identity, has a sex change to try and like hide and create a new life and whatnot. And their ex partner comes, and there's like a Zoe Saldana plays a lawyer. It's it's awful. It's awful. Like it's like everybody I know hates this film. Like trans people hate it. Allies of trans people hate it. People who want trans people dead hate it. Americans hate it. Mexicans hate it. British people hate it. People who love musicals because it's a musical hate it because it's like actual ear rape. The songs are. People who hate musicals hate it. Critics hate it. Cinephiles hate it. Normies hate it. Jeffrey works down the Chinese hates it. Every single person except the Academy hates this damn film. Man, ridiculous,
It's just
stupid, stupid.
oh man. Wow. I mean, I
I,
I first saw a clip of this movie from watching the news. That's how I found out about it. I was watching
was it ITV News?
I got a recommend for a video from Sky News Australia talking about this film, about how bad it was. And there's this
Yeah.
one clip, and it was one of the
Was
songs
it
or
this? Was
something.
it the penis to vagina song?
Yes! And why did the guy saying that line sound like Harry Hill to me? What the hell? Honestly, though, I don't. What is this movie? I think you're
Are you
gonna
sure
have
you
to
want to
look.
watch
You're
it
gonna
even
have to
framed?
look back on Willy's Wonderland and say, perhaps I treated you
No,
too harshly.
no, genuinely, On Frosted is more deserving of a nomination than this
No,
pile of crap. And so is Ricky Stenicki probably, and so is Madam Web, and so is Joker 2. Literally, this if we were to do that like ranking of all the movies from 2024, this would be rock bottom, no question.
Yo, don't be slagging off Ricky Stenicki. I'm pretty sure it has a higher IMDb rating than
Yeah,
this film.
I think it's right. I mean, pardon my French, but it's by a French director who clearly did not do his research on like Mexican culture. This film can go suck my dick. Anyway, shall I
Wow.
move on to something more positive now? Because I've really um. So go from like the worst
That
ones who
was
might be
visceral though. That was visceral
yeah.
hatred.
I genuinely hate it's genuinely an endurance test to sit through this film.
Gotta
But these
clip
are the
that.
ones. Oh, yeah, I definitely will. But now we've got some of the better ones. So next up we got the Brutalist, which is a long ass film. It's really depressing, but it's a brilliantly made film, brilliantly acted. Like Adrian Brody, Guy Pearce. It's sort of like a kind of like American Dream kind of. Holocaust survivor comes to America and becomes an architect. It's kind of based on like true events, but it's like a proper like epic, even with like an intermission as well, which is like you don't see that in films nowadays. But very classic feeling film, but brilliantly made, just very depressing, and because it is quite dark, and it's just brilliantly it's brilliant how the film achieves that tone.
The tonal
Next,
whiplash between those two was insane.
oh man, next up is Conclave. Did you hear about this one?
I've heard of it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's Ralph Fiennes in this one. It's the one about like the Pope and the Catholic Church and whatnot. Personally, this is one that I know is a bit of a front runner, but this was one that I wasn't really too fond of. I just didn't really care for it, and it kind of had that problem where it sort of felt a bit too. It sort of felt a bit too smart for its own good. Like it thought it was smarter than what it actually was. I
Right.
it didn't really do it. It didn't really fully do it for me. But it's not a bad film. Like great performances, great filmmaking, just not really my sort of thing. And then the best to last, The Substance, which I think I mentioned in a previous podcast when it came out.
Yes, I
I
think
think
you
for
did,
the
and I think I am gonna try and watch that one before next month if I
please do,
can.
please do, please do. It's my favorite of this batch, and if we were to do that ranking, it would be my favorite of 2024 because oh man, this is so good. This is so I love it to bits. It's not like the most original. Actually, no, because the thing is, it's obviously about an aging actress played by Demi Moore who's got a lot of awards buzz because of the role. Who tries this like experimental black market drug to kind of make her younger, because obviously in like Hollywood, when women get over a certain age, they don't get a lot of opportunities. So it's kind of she sort of makes a younger version of herself, like a sort of like sort of a sort of perfect version of herself that Margaret Qualley plays, and it's a brilliant concept. It plays around with it so well. The filmmaking's amazing. Like it looks gorgeous. It's all, but just really kind of it's really out there, wild, audacious. It's really fun, really entertaining. It's not like Conclave where it's quite fun deficient. This is just balls to the wall, so fun, and it's got so many interesting ideas that you think about, and great visual storytelling. Something like visual storytelling, is some of the best that you can find in recent films, I think. So yeah, at least we didn't have to. Yeah, saving the best to last. There, Substance is amazing, and if you haven't watched it, go check it out.
Yeah, well, I mean that you've sold that to me more. I will try if I have time to fit that
Hmm.
one in over the other ones of the best picture nominees.
Mhm. And I'm really happy with that one because obviously it's a horror film as well, and horror films never get any love from the Academy. It's like
That is
the
true, yeah.
only the only one that's ever won Best Picture was Silence of the Lambs in the 90s.
Okay, yeah.
In terms of like all the horror films that have been nominated for Best Picture, you could probably count on both hands. I think about 7 or 8 in total. I think like Jaws has been nominated, Sixth Sense got nominated, Exorcist got nominated. I think Get Out was the last one back like 2017, 18. So it's a rarity. So I love the fact that that got love, and also it didn't get nominated for Best Picture, but Nosferatu got quite a few nominations for like technical stuff, which,
Oh
as you
yeah.
know, I love that film, and I was really happy to see that love go to it.
Yeah, it's good to see genres like that getting a little more attention instead of just the
Hmm.
regular, like usually it's mostly just like kind of dramas that get in or
Yeah.
whatever, or
Oh,
biopics, you know.
don't get me wrong. I think there is value to them, and I think the less mainstream stuff, it's nice to have it highlighted so you go and check them out. I think that's always important. But there is also worth in having these sort of genre films, like obviously Substance, but also Dune Part Two, a big sci-fi epic,
Mm.
Wicked, a big Broadway musical film. Even though, again, another one that didn't get a Best Picture on, but The Wild Robot, an animated film, got also Best Score and Best Sound. So it got some other ones outside of its designated category, which I was really happy to see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there
I do.
anything
Oh,
else
sorry.
left on your list?
I think there is. I did want to say that I think on that kind of point about the Oscars kind of broadening out a bit more. I think they are starting to in the past few years with more interesting nominations, but I do think that does mean when you get these films like Amelia Perez that feel so ridiculously out of touch, it makes them stick out like a sore thumb even more.
Yeah, I don't know how it got 13 nominations.
It's
Who
ridiculous.
nominated
Yeah,
it?
me.
Oh, nah,
just, just for a laugh. Just for a laugh. I was like,
just for a laugh.
should we, yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's all the Oscars discussion I have in terms of that. And the last thing I quickly wanted to mention, I've already done a video on this on my channel, but I wanted to just quickly address it as well. And it's the passing of because we covered when James Earl Jones passed last year, and I figured it's appropriate to acknowledge the passing of not just a filmmaking legend, but a legend in sort of artistry in general, and that's David Lynch, who the renowned filmmaker, actor, musician, painter. He kind of did everything, and acclaimed films like The Elephant Man, Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, which I watched, and now it's become a new favorite of mine. Wild at Heart with Nick Cage, he directed that. Mulholland Drive. In terms of TV, he created Twin Peaks, which is an infamous TV show in the past sort of 30-ish years. And he has this such distinct style that I've really appreciated as the years have gone on. And as I say, I've done a whole video on this, so I would recommend going to that for more thoughts on that. But yeah, just wanted to acknowledge that, and may he rest in peace, and best wishes to his family and friends. So that's
It's always hard to know where to pick up from that.
I know it is a bit of a it's I mean it's never a nice topic to kind of discuss, but I always
No.
think it's important to acknowledge that. Yeah, but
Oh yeah, definitely it
yeah.
is. I mean, that, like with
Mhm.
James Earl Jones as well, we do that because you get to
Mhm.
kind of mull over that with their contribution to cinema, and obviously this is a podcast about cinema, so you know.
Yeah, I think it's always it's trying to, but I think why I always think with if any tribute to a an artist who has passed, I always like to use it as a springboard to discuss what they've done and kind of not make light of it, but use it as in a positive light, kind of like they may have passed away, but look at the incredible things that they have done. And that's what with the video that I did, that's what I tried to do, like highlighting some of my favorite Lynch films. And yeah. And just as a person, like no, I've never heard like a bad word against him. He's always been a great, a very from like set reports of like cast and crew who've worked with them, a very sensitive person, like very considerate of others. Like unlike some of the other directors you've heard, like Kubrick and Hitchcock, who could be quite, quite dodgy on sets and quite controlling and not very nice and whatnot. Lynch never seemed to be like that from like crew and cast reports. So that's always a good thing as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's everything that I've got for part one. And yeah, let's get on to part two, where we talk about Wolfman.
Yeah. It's wolfing time.
Oh, for God's sake! Why? I thought you were.
And then he proceeds to wolf over everybody.
Ah, disgusting. I thought. Come
The
on,
Morbius
man.
meme never dies.
It better die. I will kill the Morbius meme. Anyway, Wolfman. Let's talk about it. The first pure horror film we talked about on the podcast, because obviously Romulus is kind of like sci-fi horror, but this is pure kind of horror in
Yes.
that way. Obviously, it's also a remake of a classic, sort of Universal monster movie of like the 30s and 40s as well. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
another sort of reimagining of a film of that time. And yeah, it's the first 2025 film that we talked about on the podcast as well.
Yeah, I find it really interesting though that like Universal reimagining these like old horror movies from like 80, 90, even close to 100 years ago. Meanwhile,
Hmm.
Disney are reimagining stuff from like 5 years ago.
So yes, soon they'll be releasing the live action remakes alongside the animated film.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
man.
but let's not talk about crappy Disney live action movies. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Wolfman. So
Yes, let's talk
overall,
about the
what do you think?
Wolfman.
What are you thinking overall?
Overall, right. Overall, I think it was a pretty solid film. I liked quite a few of like I'm not usually the kind of person who necessarily goes much into like the visual direction of it, but I think there were some interesting
Mhm.
visual bits, especially with like the I'm gonna call it wolf vision, if
Yeah,
you know
his
what I
his
mean.
perspective. Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
that was really interesting. I think a lot of the scenes were quite nicely done for like the building up the tension of. I
Hmm.
mean, you don't really get to see the Wolfman like for quite a while into the film, like properly get a look at him, which I think really added to like kind of the suspense. I like when they do that when it's like, yeah, don't show
Yeah.
you the horror straight away. So I think visually it was quite an interesting film. I think because it was quite a contained film, there was quite a small cast. I think that worked pretty
Yeah.
well to its advantage. So overall, I think it was a pretty solid horror movie.
Hmm. I think for me, it's quite an interesting one, and I'm kind of glad we picked it, even though it's not a favorite of mine. I don't think it's amazing. It's a solid film, as you said. Like it's pretty decent, decently made, like some good tension building. I like the fact that it's a small cast of characters, so it's not overstuffed with meaningless characters, so you get a bit more connection with them. I like that. I think for me, I think it could have been a lot more because I think it was starting to. It's a horror film where it was starting to tap into some interesting ideas, particularly in regards to like parenthood and
Yes.
fathers and sort of how kids can often be kind of frightened of their parents. You know, at a young age, almost like they sort of see him as a monster sometimes, and they kind of parallel with the Wolfman creature, whether that's with crap, I forgot the main guy's name because obviously there's the bit at the beginning with his father, um, in the when he's younger, and then obviously he has his daughter as well. What is his name? I've forgotten. Yeah, I'm bad with names. Okay, I'm really bad with names. Blake, that's his name. So obviously Blake, you see at the beginning him younger with his father, and living out in the woods in that cabin, and then obviously you cut to the modern day where he's grown up with his wife and his daughter in New York. It's kind of like a sort of more modern sort of lifestyle, more kind of commercial lifestyle. I think there was a bit more potential that they could have gone into there,
Okay.
and so that's why I don't think it's a great film. That's all. I guess I think there is a bit of missed potential where they could have gone a lot further with it. But I like the fact that it's getting there. It was getting somewhere. It was like it's like that bit in Rogue One. They were this close. You were close to greatness. It was this close. But but yeah.
Is that really everything we had to talk about for the film?
Yeah, that ended the same. I
Speedrun part
think
two.
speaker, yeah. No, I think with a lot of monster movies, I think with that the point of with a lot of monster movies, the monster is often you can often use that as a metaphor for a certain thing. So I was rewatching, I should say, Little Shop of Horrors not long ago, and obviously that's a musical, but it's also a bit of a a monster movie with the Audrey 2 plant that it eats people and whatnot, and the whole obviously as it eats more people, it gets bigger and bigger and grows in power. And the whole metaphor for that film is that, it's sort of a metaphor for greed and ambition and like chasing fame. And when you don't sort of check in on that and keep it under control, it just spirals out and becomes this disaster, as, represented by the fact that the more the monster's fed, obviously the bigger it grows and the more powerful it grows. Um, and I think they could have gone further with that idea of sort of parenthood and because there's a line in the film where it's like you know parents sometimes don't mean like they don't mean to snap, but they can sometimes seem like a monster to the kids in a way. And I think
Yeah.
obviously with Blake growing up with his father, who was a bit more strict, and kind of that sort of off-grid lifestyle, he kind of he I guess wasn't as close with his father, sort of emotionally. Didn't really feel like it didn't have that kind of paternal connection necessarily because of that lifestyle, and so that kind of lingers with Blake in a sense. And so I feel like they could have gone more. I think the fact that I'm kind of unsure where to go with that point kind of shows that the film doesn't fully explore that to the best of its ability.
Yeah. I think what it does explore quite nicely though is I like the way it kind of portrayed the transition from man into wolf with this
Hmm.
one. It kind of like
Quite gradual.
it came like a disease in a way, and it just
Hmm.
slowly started taking over. And you can kind of see each stage of how much worse it gets, like to the point where then he can't speak, and then the point where he can't hear people properly, and then the point
Yeah.
where his body actually starts changing.
Hmm.
Um, but I do like, and obviously spoilers because we do spoilers for part two. I like how at the end he still kind of had enough humanity left in him to want his wife to shoot him with the gun so that he doesn't get to the point where he's going to hurt his family and
Hmm.
especially his daughter. So obviously it gets got that kind of like paternal bond kind of
Hmm.
theme in it and that he didn't want to end up like especially when he realized that the other Wolfman was his dad.
Yeah.
Like I think there were some interesting aspects in that, but
I think that there was clearly they were trying to clearly draw a parallel between the dynamic of Blake and his father and Blake and his daughter. They were trying
yeah,
to clearly make some kind of parallel with that. They just didn't. I don't think it was fully there.
yeah, but
Didn't
you could
fully
see
get
the
there.
pieces.
Yeah. I just think a few more revisions of the script and a bit more, maybe even a longer runtime, just to expand it a bit more, kind of make it clear what they were trying to go for. I think could have,
Yeah,
could
it
have
was
been
short.
something.
It
Yeah,
could have been a bit longer.
yeah,
Now, most horror
yeah. And
movies tend to be
you,
shorter, but I feel like this one could have
mhm.
been a bit longer and it wouldn't have suffered for it.
I mean, usually I like a shorter movie, but I think sometimes you do need just a bit more time to just expand on. So if you're going to go for something a bit bigger, I think have a longer runtime so you can expand on your ideas and themes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What did you think of it like what did you think of it like visually and from a more director perspective? Because that's a perspective you
Mhm.
tend to think into a lot more than I do of how it was kind of
Yeah.
shot and made.
I think it was. I think it was decent. I am obviously Lee Whannell. I'm pronouncing that right?
I think it's Lee.
Lee, yeah. He obviously directed it. I know he's worked on like Saw. He directed a version of The Invisible Man. I was planning on watching it for this podcast, but I didn't get time to watch it.
Ah,
But again, another film where he remade a classic, monster movie. And I have seen clips from that, and with some of how they kind of, because The Invisible Man's a bit more sort of fantastical, a bit more sci-fi kind of concepts. It translates well to a modern filmmaking thing, and some of the directing in that's quite interesting. Wolfman, it's not poorly directed. I think good atmosphere in the woods, um, some solid like lighting. I do love the how they sort of showcase the wolf's perspective, as you said, kind of a sort of blue kind of vision, sort of like very distorted. I think that was kind of cool. I think the only thing is because the film is ultimately a kind of traditional sort of cabin in the woods kind of story it's not the most showy director like directorially, but it's kind of a case of it does what it sets out to do and does it well, but it's not mind blowing. I think it's decent.
yeah, I think overall Lee's a pretty solid director for horror movies. He's done quite a few of them. Like we did Saw, he did the Invisible Man. I'm just looking which ones, but he was involved in writing and directing quite a few of the Insidious films as well. So
Mhm.
he's got a kind of a good eye for it, and I think there are a lot of interesting kind of um shots in this film. I especially quite liked the way the earlier scene with Blake and his dad in the forest when the Wolfman's kind of stalking them, and then they go up into the kind of treehouse kind of thing. I think the way that they
Mhm.
kind of use like the gun scope to kind of like look for the
Yeah,
Wolfman. I think there was some good kind of visuals there that were very tense as well. But
hmm I think it was good at building tension. It wasn't like cheap jump scares. I think, and
yeah,
that
yeah,
was
it
good.
wasn't cheap
You
jump
know,
scares.
I like that because I'm like. So some of these like in that opening sequence, I think was really strong in terms of building tension. You have these like kind of long lingering shots where you hear something in the distance, and I think that was quite good. Yeah, but overall, it's just I think it's a decent film.
Yeah.
But it's quite a simple film in reality. It's not the most revolutionary film, but I think some of the things it has in there, it's getting there. It's getting there. Just needed a bit more time in the oven, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a perfectly serviceable horror film, but it's just nothing outstanding, but perfectly
Hmm.
fine watch.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah. I'd probably say 6 out of 10 overall.
Yeah, five or six, six. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
about right.
I realise the segment is quite short, but that's the thing. It is, it is a pretty simple film. There's not loads
Yeah.
here.
It's refreshing as well, rather than just spending like 40 minutes talking about a movie like Joker 2 and everything it did
Oh
wrong or
God,
whatever. It's just like, I mean, doesn't always have to be a long part two.
no. But I do as well. I do like it when you can kind of go a bit more in depth on
Yeah,
them.
yeah, it
It's
is a bit
it can be
unfortunate
fun.
there isn't as much to sink our teeth into with this one,
Hmm.
but I
But it's
mean,
better than it is better than Joker 2.
low bar, but yeah.
Yeah, and I prefer it over Romulus as well. I know you probably don't, but
I probably did
I
slightly
do.
prefer Romulus.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Um, but
so
I will definitely check out Lee's other work, like Invisible Man.
Invisible
He
Man
did
was
another
pretty
one
good,
as
yeah.
he did another one, Upgrade. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have not, no.
I've not seen it, but it's one I want to watch, sort of like a sort of sci-fi, almost Terminator kind of story.
Okay.
It's like a sort of bloke kind of fused with AI, and he becomes like a sort of killer robot kind of thing. It looks really good. So, some of Lee's other work, I'm really interested to check out. And obviously, I will. I promise, I will check out Saw. I promise, I will.
Is this it for part two then?
I think it is.
All I could say is Sonic 3 is still safely my favorite spotlight we've done. That's it.
Yeah, that's. I probably agree with that as well. But until the Minecraft movie comes along,
We're 2 months away.
I'm going to bring this up every time until we get to the Minecraft movie. Oh, that was something. The villagers. Have you seen what they look like?
No.
Have you not seen what they look like?
Send me a picture.
Hang on, hang on. We're going to show you. I'm going to show you live on. We're not live. I'm going to
Oh
show
boy.
you on
Oh
a.
boy.
Hang on. Look at these. Look at these dudes. Look at these guys. Obviously, you can put a picture later on, but yeah. Look at these guys.
Human Squidward isn't real. He can't hurt you.
Human Spider-Man.
But
That is just that is traumatizing.
what is this film, bro?
It gets worse. It
No.
just gets worse. It just gets worse, man. It really does. Anyway, I think that's it for part two.
So on to part three now. It was Valentine's Day, which is not a holiday because I do not get a paid day off of work.
That's brilliant.
I spent my
Oh man,
Valentine's Day in the office completely alone because my
I
coworker doesn't
spent
work Fridays and my boss was out driving his Porsche. So
I spent it trying to trudge through uni, absolutely sick as a dog. As I say, sounded like RFK Jr. And yeah, and every time that I went on Instagram and saw everyone's stories, like one after the other, it was like, Happy Valentine's Day to my love, Happy Valentine's Day to my world. And it's like, I feel great right now.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know if you remember my, I used to do obviously the comedy sketches on the channel,
Yeah.
my channel. Do you remember the Valentine's sketch that I did?
I'm not
It was year,
sure.
it was years ago. It was like 5 years ago now. It was like pre Big
That
Rona. It was pre then.
that was pre-Big Rona, I think. The Big
Yeah.
Rona.
Yeah, but yeah, but anyway, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but that was basically me nowadays. So, but we thought though for Valentine's Day for the season of love allegedly, we would we would talk about three romance films. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about because I think romance films I think can have a bit of a bad rap. because I mean, with any genre really, but I think they do get a bad rap in the sense of they're often really overall cheesy, and like if your main sort of romance doesn't work, the film doesn't work really.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of Hallmark films, really.
Yeah. Hallmark films.
Yeah, but like that
Jeez.
kind of like really bad, like just cheesy, over like not. It's not genuine. It's not a genuine, heartfelt romance of any kind. It's not smart. It's just really cliche and whatnot. But we found some good ones to talk about,
Sure.
and
Yeah, but we found some I can't
well,
promise for the
I
quality of my ones.
I oh god what have we got? Have we got bloody Ricky Stenicki too or something?
Electric Boogaloo. All right,
If
I'm
he
gonna
has an
let you
imaginary
start
girlfriend.
today. I'm gonna let you start today after that little Willy's Wonderland thing you pulled last session. You're going first.
Okay. Okay. I did kind of want to go first because I want to sort of pick up on one of the films I mentioned in part one, a recent film, 2024, Anora, directed by, written and directed and edited by Sean Baker. And Sean Baker's films, Sean Baker, he's a filmmaker who, one of our uni lecturers has been like, you should watch his films because he obviously he writes, directs, he also edits. So in our editing module, be like, oh, watch his films. And the editing is really something in that film. It's really specific, really creates a mood for that film. But yeah, Anora, it's about a young sex worker from Brooklyn called Annie, or Honora, but her nickname's Annie. And as I say, a sex worker from Brooklyn, and she meets this sort of like Russian, sort of jumped up rich kid. They sort of have this like one night stand, and then it sort of leads into a sort of relationship. From that, they get like an impromptu marriage in Vegas. But when the Russian kid, when as a kid, they're like their early 20s, I should say. Um, but when the Russian guy's parents find out about it, they try and send their goons to get them divorced. And it becomes sort of like screwball comedy in a way, and it's genuinely hilarious to watch. And as I say, it got a Best Picture nom. And for me, this is a kind of film that even though it's a bit of a front runner at the minute, it won like the Palme d'Or award. It's got a lot of buzz in that sort of award space, but it's not a conventional one. Like this kind of, it's a very contemporary feeling film. It feels very current, very kind of playing on like modern sort of environments and particularly with like obviously sex work and kind of how sort of I guess how sexualized our kind of society is nowadays. I think it's really quite timely in that sort of way, and I think it's a really valuable film in that sort of sense. And that's why I kind of picked it for the romance thing because, yeah, we do live in a society that is very sex obsessed. And I mean, the first shot of the film is literally just tits and ass, like it is, but not in a no, it is, and it does genuinely take you for a shock. It's like, oh bloody hell. Um, but that's why I'm thinking. I'm surprised that it got an Oscar on because it explores what would typically be quite a taboo subject, but it's not like gratuitous about it. It's not kind of like the camera lingering for the audience to have some TNA. Basically, it's not for that. It's kind of just showing the reality. Often the camera is at a distance in a lot of the club scenes, which I think is quite an interesting approach. And Sean Baker, he does explore sex work in a lot of his films. Like Florida Project is one, Tangerine, that's another one. It's something that he explores. It's something he's been criticized for as well. I don't find it like exploitative though. I think it's a genuine. I think it feels genuine through great filmmaking, great editing that kind of puts you in the headspace of the characters. Brilliant performances like Mikey Madison as Annie is amazing. She's so got there, really funny and really heartfelt as well. And there's another fella who got Best Supporting Actor nom. I'm bad with like pronunciation. He plays the character of Igor. He got a Best Supporting Actor nom, and he excels really with kind of understated comedy. He has this kind of like chill reactions to everything. But with him, he sort of develops a genuine bond with Annie. And I don't want to spoil anything, but obviously you have Annie, who's a sex worker who, gets involved with Ivan, who's the Russian guy. And then that's ultimately quite a sort of null and void relationship. But the one she has with Igor, there's something genuine about that. But then the ending, the very final scene, really takes you for a loop. It's such an abrupt, really shocking ending, but it kind of shows the position that Annie's been in because of how she has to live and whatnot. And not necessarily like from her own choice, but like just because of that lifestyle she's had, how she ultimately can't have these fully meaningful connections, and it is really it doesn't quite clock when you first watch it, but when you think back on it, it really does linger on you. And that's the thing I've always said: films that can really stay with you and linger with you are the best kind of films. And Nora absolutely has stuck with me since I watched it about a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it's genuinely fantastic and a great modern film, a sort of a modern classic, I would say. So yeah, that's why I picked it for discussing romance films as a contemporary film that explores that kind of current view on like sex and romance and relationships. I think it's genuinely really interesting.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. It sounds like
Mhm.
probably not a film to watch with the family on film night.
No, no. Thankfully, I didn't. I was always really concerned. Is like if anybody walks downstairs, I'm going to look really dodgy right
Yeah,
now. Um, but ultimately, it's not as I can understand that because, as I said, the first shot is literally just tits and ass, and it basically kind of shows you, yeah, this is what it is. But it's not exploitative. It's not kind of, kind of getting the money shot as such. It's just
right.
showing the reality of sex work. And I think as you go on in the film, it does it. Yes, it can be uncomfortable, but you kind of accept that as the reality of the film in a way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know making it sound quite uncomfortable and whatnot, but it is honestly really entertaining. It's got great humor, amazing performances that are really fun, and it's this kind of like screwball comedy when they're trying to find Ivan, who's obviously the guy who Annie hooked up with on that one night stand. It's great that screwball comedy. It's just honestly really funny,
Yeah.
but it can also be really hard hitting as well at times, and in really unique and interesting ways that you don't get from many films, and that's why I think this film's really special. So
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, that's a
I'd
good
highly,
start.
I'd highly recommend it. And if this does win Best Picture now, I'd be really pleased for it. I really would.
It sounds more deserving than some of the other ones that are
Amelia
nominated.
Perez. Oh God, yeah. Can we not talk about Amelia Perez? I don't want to
Let's
talk
not
about
get
that.
back to that. Let's not bring that
Yeah,
hatred back.
I don't want to. Let's
Hate
bring the
leads to
love back,
anger.
man.
Anger leads to the
Anger
dark
me.
side.
Let's bring the love back, man. It's Valentine's. Let's bring the love back.
Yes, and the first movie I want to
What's your
start
next film?
with. So I didn't know before last episode that this episode was gonna we were gonna do romance films. Otherwise, I would have saved one of my picks from last episode, the Nick Cage film "It Could Happen to You." I would have
Yeah.
discussed that today if I hadn't discussed it
Mhm.
last time. So instead, I offer you a different Nicolas Cage romance film.
Is it Walter Hart?
No, it's not Wilder Heart. I haven't seen that one
Ah,
yet.
that's
I will
you
at
should
some
watch it.
point, but I haven't seen it yet.
You would really like it, I think. But yeah, what's the Nick Cage romance film?
This movie's there's multiple reasons I watched this one. Yes, because of Nick Cage. Secondly, because one of the main songs in it was written by one of my favorite bands. And thirdly, I've been where it's been filmed. And so, City of Angels.
It rings a bell.
So the film's set in Los Angeles, of course. And obviously, I've been to LA a few times. I've been to certain areas where they film the stuff. Um, and it stars Nicolas Cage, and the idea of the film is that he is an angel, and the angels kind of roam the earth.
Hmm.
They're not seen though. They roam the earth, but they're invisible to normal people, and they kind of just keep watch of everything. But he falls for this woman, and instead he decides that because the only way he could be with a person would be to give up being an angel and go back to kind of go to fall to earth and be a normal person. So he gives up his angel right to be with this woman, and overall for the majority of it, I would say it's a relatively like middling romance, but the last kind of like 20 minutes or so and the kind of twist in direction that comes near the end really kind of just set it apart from everything else for me. I don't want to give that
Yeah.
away, but
Hmm.
it's an interesting watch. So
Sounds a bit like how Nora made me feel. Kind of that last scene. Obviously, in that case, it's the last scene, but the last sort of act of the film really does kind of change your perspective on a lot of what it does.
mm,
That's what it sounds like, anyway.
there are certain like aspects of it that I would want to talk about more, but obviously we don't usually do spoilers for part three because we want our viewers to go and watch these films.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely, yeah.
but I think I'm gonna try and word it in a way that doesn't spoil anything. But I think the ultimate thing with the movie is it gives you the perspective of if love was worth it, even if it's not forever. Because
Mhm.
obviously being an angel and going into just falling and being a regular person, you shared that immortality, and obviously um, weirdly, Highlander has a similar kind of message, but yeah. So I think it's just this interesting idea of the fact that there's worth in love, even if it's
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
necessarily long lived. But
Yeah.
honestly, that's as much as I can say about it without giving away what happens.
Mhm.
Go and watch it. It's a great film. It's obviously Nick Cage, so I'm gonna stand by anything he
Yeah.
does. But
Absolutely. I think it's really cool. Just like I think that's really cool about all the films that you pick. There's always a Nick Cage film that you can pick out for one of these segments.
exactly, he's done so
And
many
Nick Cage
different
romance.
things.
Yeah,
There's
that's
always
brilliant.
something you can pull from for Cage that's applicable to any conversation about movies.
Yeah, it's honestly really cool. I really like hearing that. But it's an interesting point. The whole thing of you know, it's kind of like love being finite, but it's sort of like making the most of it, and
Yeah,
that's why it's worth it. You know, and obviously not to get too personal, but I would I would sort of agree with that.
me too.
From experience, I would agree with that. You know,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
can
same.
it can hurt. It can hurt when it ends, but
Definitely.
oh God, it can. But when it happens, you know, it's worth it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, even if it you never really fully recover, it's still worth
Mhm.
it, because that was
Mhm.
the
I mean,
experience.
those experiences, they do shape you, and they do
Absolutely.
inform they inform where you go next. And it's like you take what went well with it, you take what you didn't like from that relationship, and you say, I do not want that again,
Yeah.
and you go and look for what else. This turned really deep all of a sudden. What happened there?
That's the power of Nicolas Cage, my friend.
That's the power of love. Anyway, oh bugger. Anyway, shall I go next? My next
Absolutely,
one.
yep.
So I noticed that actually looking at the cast, so Nicolas Cage is in it, and also Meg Ryan's in it as the character of Maggie.
Yeah.
Right. The next film I want to talk about, I was going to save this to last, but I'm going to talk about it now because it also has Meg Ryan in it, and
Okay.
this to me is the romance film. For me, this when I think of a romance film, it's this one that I think of from 1989. It is a classic. When Harry Met Sally.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that one. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Please watch it. It's my favorite of these three, but it is honestly one of my kind of comfort films to watch. But it's absolutely brilliant. So as I say, Meg Ryan's in it as Sally, and Billy Crystal, Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. is Harry, right?
Just
Um,
imagine it as Mike Wazowski and it's a different movie.
but Billy Crystal's great in it. In fact, they're both great in it. Yeah, so the reason I love this film because it is a classic romance film, but it's not a stereotypical film. It does kind of deconstruct sort of romantic relationships because it takes place over the sort of span of 10 years from like 1977-ish to like the present day in like 1989. So it takes place over a long period of time when Harry and Sally met each other at college, and they were kind of like sort of acquaintances at the time. And initially they don't get along, and then over time they sort of drift apart, and then they get back into each other's lives, and they become sort of friends, and they develop sort of romantic feelings for each other, and then they sort of split off again. But they're always friends in that sort of sense, and it kind of challenges that whole. The film ultimately challenges that whole kind of love at first sight sort of stereotype, which I've never believed in that. I don't believe in that sort of thing because it's not very realistic, and often the strongest relationships they will develop over time. You don't go looking for relationships. I don't think you just they often come about from people that you already know. and it's that strengthening it's the strengthening of an already strong friendship into something more, and that's kind of what the when Harry Met Sally highlights. But I'd say there's that really intelligent part of the film. Obviously, kind of the whole it has that kind of thing of, oh, can a man and woman just be friends, without any sex? It kind of explores that idea, which is a very real thing, even nowadays, like even 30 odd years later. But at the same time, it's so funny. It is so funny. There are so many quotable lines and so many moments. The infamous fake orgasm scene. You've got to have known about this one, surely.
I'm not sure.
The
I'm not
thing,
sure if I've
it's
seen
it's
that.
it's Sally doing a fake orgasm in a restaurant with everyone else there, and then one of the patrons just goes, "I'll have what she's having." Have you?
Oh, okay, I know
That's
that
what that
line.
line's.
Yeah.
That's what it's from. That's what it's. Have you never know? Did you never know that?
No, I did not know that.
Well, when you watch it, you're going to be like, "Oh man, I cannot wait for you to watch this because it's so funny. It's so funny when it happens." I was howling when I was watching it, but there's so many funny moments, and also filmmaking wise, there's some really fun little parts because it's directed by Rob Reiner. He's done a few other films, Princess Bride, Stand By Me. This is Spinal Tap, the documentary sort of
Oh yeah.
on rock bands and whatnot. And the thing is, when Harry Met Sally also has these kind of documentary interview segments at sort of different points in the narrative, and the interviews, they're sort of like with just other couples, but they kind of reflect where you are in the story with these sort of interview segments. And that's a really creative little inclusion. And it's, Reiner using his documentary skills from Spinal Tap in this film. I think it's really fun. There's a fun little split screen part where Harry and Sally are on the phone and they're watching Casablanca on the same broadcast. The romance film as well, Casablanca. I almost did that as well. I almost covered that, but I thought everyone knows Casablanca. But yeah, some brilliant filmmaking finesse. I say, yeah, there's great performances. Great actor. Carrie Fisher's in it as well, which is
Oh yeah.
really cool. Yeah, and I think ultimately it is feel good because yeah, the ending is feel good. They do get together. I mean, you kind of know that they're going to get together, but it's the journey. It's watching that
Yeah.
and knowing that they are going to be okay because you've seen this really strong friendship between them blossom, and that's why it's really satisfying. And it's not like a cheap, oh, boy meets girl, they fall in love at first sight, and it's all going to be all hunky dory without actually acknowledging that relationships are difficult. That's why I think Harrison is so valuable and such a great film. But it's also just fun. It's really fun.
Real.
So, so yeah, this of all of them, if you of all the ones I'm picking, if you've not seen it, please go and watch it as well because it's just amazing.
We're ping ponging back now.
Yep, that's me done with how it's selling.
Right. So my second pick, I was actually torn between three films for my second pick.
Mm.
Um, I'm gonna throw in the other two as honorable mentions here. I wanted to talk about possibly Jerry Maguire,
Ooh, okay.
but it's been quite a while. I
Show me the
don't remember it
money,
well. Show me the money.
honey.
It's been a little too long that I don't actually remember that much of it, and I feel like I
Except
wouldn't
for that
have
line.
as much to say.
Mhm.
I remember Show Me
We
the
really,
Money. I
we,
remember you can. I remember like the You Complete Me bit, or
Mhm.
whatever, and then I remember, I remember Tom Cruise was in it. but
Yeah.
but
I really want to watch Jerry Maguire, to be fair. I really want to watch
it
that.
is pretty good. It's just I've forgotten a lot of it just because it's been like 2 years.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
need to rewatch it at some point.
Maybe if we do a Tom Cruise segment, we can talk about Jerry
Tom
Maguire.
Cruise segment, yes. If we do Tom
Yeah.
Cruise, I'm absolutely bringing up his best movie, Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's a good one.
Anyway,
Yeah, we should do
what's the
Tom
other?
Cruise
Oh,
one day.
that's yeah. Right?
Ayo, ayo, no, not like that. No, 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 no. We should do Tom Cruise movie a podcast episode. You dirty boy.
What's your next honorable mention?
The next one is I also possibly talked about another Nick Cage movie, The Family Man.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Basically, it's sort of a Christmas movie, but sort of not. It's kind of set at Christmas. He's this really lonely rich guy, and he
Hmm.
gets he gets to see in a dream what his life would have been like if instead he'd stayed with this other woman and had a family.
Is it a bit like a sort of It's a Wonderful Life kind of alternate universe
Little bit,
sort of
yeah. So he
thing?
gets to see what it's like if he has a family, but obviously he doesn't realize it's a dream at first. He's just like, I'm this rich business guy, and suddenly I have this family, and I don't have this job and the fancy cars and everything. It's just like, but then he kind of comes to appreciate what it would have been like if he'd gone down the route of having the family life with this woman that he left behind.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting one, and it does have some rather interesting acting from Cage as well. Um,
Mhm.
but the movie I've settled on is for my second pick is ultimately a really stupid movie, but I wanted to talk about it because it's funny. I love my man Kevin James. So this is the movie called Zookeeper.
You lost me at Kevin James.
Hey man, respect Kevin James. I love the guy.
No,
He does some funny stuff. I mean, but
was he?
yeah, he's brilliant,
Paul
honestly.
Blart Mall Cop?
Paul Blart Mall Cop is goated. Don't even
I haven't
lie
even
to
seen.
me about Paul
I haven't
Blart
even
Mall
seen.
Cop.
I haven't even seen it to be fair. So I can't
Paul
really
Blart Mall
comment.
Cop is Die Hard in a Mall, but it's super funny.
Anyway, so Zookeeper. What's this movie about?
Zookeeper. So he works at a zoo. He has a crush on a girl, and he and who's his wingman? A bunch of talking zoo animals.
Please tell me that one of them is a bird.
Possibly, I don't remember. But there's a
If that's not the case, you
the,
had that joke gift wrap for you and you didn't take it.
it's just so basically what it is this is where we're basically animals can speak, but they have this kind of code of silence where they don't talk when people are around. But they kind of see the zookeeper Kevin James kind of down on his luck with this woman, and they kind of he kind of catches them talking, and then they start giving him advice on how to romance the woman.
I just had to look at the cast list of like the animal voices. We've got Nick Nolte, Adam Sandler, Stallone, Cher, John Favreau, Don Rickles. What the hell?
It's so funny though. It's such a
I take it all
stupid
back. It's the
film.
best. I take it all back. It's
Exactly,
the best
bro.
movie ever made. It's
Exactly,
the
bro. You
oh,
cannot be dissing Kevin James like that.
Rogan's in this as well. What's Joe Rogan doing in this movie? And Ken Young, isn't it?
Honestly, like I cannot get
What?
out of my mind the image of Kevin James and a gorilla sitting in a car singing Apple Bottom Jeans. Honestly, it's just such a wacky movie, but I just find so much fun out of it. It's just
Can't believe it. I, I, I'm legit considering watching this now because this just
do
looks
it,
epic.
bro, do it. We got so deep with this conversation earlier, and this is where we're at now.
We got to bring it. Yeah, we got to bring it back.
We gotta bring it back. We gotta bring it back. But honestly, just sometimes, like, let's just let a romance movie be so stupid, but it's so funny. It puts the
That's
comedy in
true.
rom-com. So,
It certainly does. Yeah.
Zookeeper.
My God.
I'll ping pong it back to you now. Bring us back.
Yeah. This is actually quite appropriate because it is quite down to earth, and I've got the DVD here, which I can showcase. I brought this for £3 from
Ooh.
HMV. It's a bit of a bargain. It's a classic. It's old. It's from 1981, but it feels a lot older and a lot more classic. You know, because of who's in it, and it's quite a simple film, kind of in that sort of way. It is on Golden Pond. Don't know if you've heard of this one.
I have not heard of that one, no.
Yeah, it is I say from 1981, but it is a very old school feeling film, and in a good way. I mean, because I mean, mainly because of who's in it. It's Catherine Hepburn and Henry Fonda in the very iconic actors of like the 30s, 40s, 50s. And this is one of their last roles. I think this was Henry Fonda's last role before he passed away. But they both won Oscars for this. Jane Fonda's in it as well, his daughter, and it's actually based on a play, so I think you might like it. It's sort of yeah, it's based on a play. It's this older couple, Norman and Ethel Fair, played by Hepburn and Henry Fonda, and they live out. on Golden Pond on this sort of log cabin lake sort of area, and their daughter, played by Jane Fonda, Chelsea, arrives with her partner Billy and his no, sorry, and her son as well. And it's very much a story of like kind of broken family and kind of trying to reconnect the family. But the reason I picked it for a romance film is to show an elderly romance, that's still going strong after years and years and years. Which I think it's nice to sort of highlight that, you know,
Yeah.
because isn't it a lot of the romance stories you get, a lot of romance films are often young couples. And it's not difficult to know why. It's because younger people are conventionally, by Hollywood standards, more attractive. So people will be like, "Oh, you're hot. Oh, you're also hot. Shag each other." That's basically a Hollywood producer being like, "That's how you pitch a romance film." But
Wow.
on Golden Pond is very. It's not like that. I mean, they are both very attractive actors in their day, and still are. Like or not in the film they are. I mean, that's what I meant. But there's still that love for each other that they have after all these years, and they're getting older. Norman's having like health problems with his memory. He's having kind of health problems, but they still stay together in thick and thin, even with all the other troubles. Like Chelsea's quite estranged from them, and they ultimately reconnect. Norman reconnects with who is his grandson, Billy. They often go on like these like little fishing trips around the lake area, and it is just really nice. But I think it's that main romance between Ethel and Norman that that's quite winning because of how strong it's been all these years. That's why I wanted to pick it.
Okay, that's an interesting angle to come up with this set to highlight something kind of really
Mm.
different.
Yeah. I think that I wanted to try and I wanted to yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I saw a lot of in this film. But also, as a film, it's very brilliantly acted because it is based on a stage play. So I think you'd quite like it because it kind of reminds me a bit of. I know you've seen it. You know, The Whale, the Brendan Fraser film.
Yeah, love
I
it.
know you've seen that. I know you've seen that because obviously that's a film about, isn't it? Like the dad's trying to connect with his estranged daughter,
Yes, yeah.
and it is very sort of play like. It's sort of in that what kind of small
Yeah, it's
setting.
got the one setting like the whole time. It's just the same.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very much a play.
Mhm. Yeah, on Golden Pond's quite similar, and it is based on a stage play. And the guy who wrote the play, he wrote the script, and he got an Oscar for that as well. This is a bit of an awards darling back in the day. It didn't win Best Picture. Chapter Fire beat it, which I'm not happy about because that film's
Ah,
boring as balls. Um, but it was also up against Raiders of the Lost Ark as well.
all right.
So but I think this should have been the one that won because it's a more conventionally Oscar-y film, but it's also got a lot of heart. Very well made. Looks gorgeous. Some of the shots of like the sun reflecting on the pond. Looks gorgeous and nice music. And it's just like a really nice little film. Not very high stakes, but just really nice little film that I'd recommend. Yeah, particularly the acting as well, because these are some like Hepburn and Fonda, some of the greatest actors of their generation. Henry Fonda, I love in anything. He's in 12 Angry Men, amazing, and so many other great films. But yeah, that's my final pick for the romance films. Yeah, love it.
Solid picks. Solid picks. Um,
And your final film,
my final one. My final one is a very, very well-known film that I think if anyone watching hasn't seen this film, then you're doing something wrong.
I'm scared.
This is like Groundhog Day. Yeah, Groundhog Day.
I'm so happy that you said. I was really scared. It's like I hope I have seen this, but I
Yeah,
have.
no,
Obviously, I have.
Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day. That is
Yeah,
a romance. That is
admit it.
among all the things. It is a romance comedy.
It is. Yeah. Admittedly, I haven't seen it in years. It's been a while since I saw it. Um,
Yeah, I think it's
but
been about
yeah,
2 years for me.
it's been about five for me. It's been
Yeah.
a while. But that's the thing. Even though it's been a while, I still vividly remember so much about it.
Yeah, because I mean, like it is it's such an iconic film. I mean, it uses this for basically for the few of you who are uneducated enough to have not seen this film, it uses the idea of a man being trapped in a time loop, living the same day over and over, And to begin with, he's just kind of confused about why the day keeps on over and over. And then he starts realizing he can do basically anything he wants with the day. And then he starts realizing he just kind of wants it to end. But then he realizes what he needs to do is he tries to develop a relationship with this woman on his news team that because they're out there doing a story on Groundhog Day, which is where the movie gets its name from. And he gets this kind of opportunity to redo this kind of date with her over and over and to try and be like to try and in his mind be like the perfect version of himself in order to get what he wants here. But then he sort of has this kind of like change of mindset throughout the film. And ultimately, doing the same thing over and over kind of teaches him how to live the best life he can in that day. And I think just that there's so much love about this film, right? It is a classic film. I mean,
Yeah.
like you have like even in like if you have like new movies where there are time loops, people will say, "Oh, it's like Groundhog Day," but
The
in the
amount, the
film
like
because
time,
it is the definitive time loop movie.
and even though it wasn't the first to ever do it, the amount of like happy doesn't Happy Death Day reference it as well?
Yeah, yeah. Happy Death Day
Yeah.
references it. Yeah.
There's a couple of Doctor Who episodes which they don't reference it, but they are kind of time loop
Mm.
episodes. Um, and obviously the Groundhog Day comparison does pop up. But it's such a brilliant concept of anything. And Groundhog Day, it does it the best where you have this high concept of a time loop, but you use it to convey these very intimate personal feelings with this man, Bill Murray plays. I think it's probably the best Bill Murray performance, actually.
It is definitely one of his best
Hmm.
performances. I think his performance in Scrooged is really good as well, like genuinely.
Hmm.
But I think, yeah,
I also really like him in Ed Wood, but he's not like a lead in that film.
oh yeah, but yeah, I think his
Hmm.
performance in Groundhog Day is really good. I think as well what I love about it is that a lot of movies that have time loops will try to explain why the time loop happened using some fancy mumbo jumbo science jargon.
Yeah.
This film, you have a time loop. It is not explained to you why it's happening. You never know why it's happening. You don't care why it's happening, and that's
Well,
the good thing. You
you
don't
don't
need to
need
know.
to.
It's a
No.
means to the plot. It's not
Mhm.
important. And if you're the kind of person questioning why the time loop is happening in the movie, I think you're missing the point of the movie because it's not why there's a time loop going
You
on.
watched it from the wrong angle here, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love the fact that we have a film that we can actually both talk about here.
Yeah.
But yeah, but as I say, I've not seen it in years because I watched it during 2020. That's when I watched it,
Ah.
and I remember loving it. And it's maybe not like the absolute favorite now that it was pretty back then, but I still love it. It's still stuck with me because I'm all about a lot of films that really connect with me are ones about living your life to the full. And the film kind of plays on that sort of question, like if you only had one day to live, what would you do?
Yeah.
You know, it kind of plays on that, and he kind of gets multiple chances to do that. And it's just really nice to see him, Phil Connors, that's Bill Murray's character, go from this kind of like, very narcissistic arsehole presenter, TV presenter, to, learning his lesson, kind of having that epiphany of how to actually live your life properly. I think that's just a really nice arc. And Bill Murray is the perfect actor for this role, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm. But yeah, even, the comedy is great. It also looks really nice as well. It's some really nice like locations. I love all the stuff with the snow. It just looks quite pretty. Um, that's all nice. I like the ice skating bit.
Oh yeah.
That was quite nice. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's really nice moments. I want to rewatch it soon. I really want to rewatch it. I
Yeah,
think
same.
particularly around like the sort of winter season. I think it's quite a good film to watch.
Yeah. Yes, that was last pick of the video. I think that one was it's just an absolute classic, Groundhog Day. Just absolutely love
It
it.
is.
I always
That's
come
it.
back to Groundhog Day. I can't help but watch it over and over and over and over and over and
And
over
over
and
and
over
over
and
and
over
over
and
and
over and
over and
over and
over in
over
Dover, in Dover, in Dover.
in Dover.
No,
Uh,
it is it's one that I do want to come back to soon because I haven't watched in years. So, but that's the I mentioned it with Anora, but it's the films that stick with you that are the best. And Groundhog Day, even though I watched it years ago, still sticks with me. So
yeah.
it's still up there in like my top 50 favorites of all time. It would still rank up there, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I'm pretty sure everything for this
Yeah.
episode.
Good way to end this one. So
I
next
know, good.
time, Oscar season.
Oscar special. We want. I'm definitely dressing up in a suit for it.
I'll have to see what I do.
Just put a
I
tie
might
on.
have a suit. I might have a suit.
Yeah, I'm definitely dressing up in a suit because why not? It'll be funny.
Why not? But
Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully we'll have some interesting things to discuss for the next one.
Mhm.
I think this was a pretty decent episode. We got a good.
Yeah.
I think we got more out of part one and three than two this time, but it was
Yeah.
nice to spend more time discussing all these other films. I think we handled
Yeah.
part three pretty well with a lot of different movies with very different kind of feels to them.
Yeah.
Um,
I tried. I mean, I tried to like look for films that had these kind of different perspectives on kind of romance that aren't just your typical rom-coms. But I think for some of these, some obviously some classics like Groundhog Day, When Harry Met Sally, but also some like lesser known ones like On Golden Pond, City of Angels. I don't think it's that well known, is it?
I think relatively, I think it was known pretty well at the time, but isn't so much
Maybe hasn't
now.
sort of. A bit like On Golden Pond, really. That was a bit of a. It's a big one back then, but maybe our generation doesn't really remember it as such. But
Yeah.
I'd recommend some of these, and then some of the more recent ones like Anora. Highly recommend it. And yeah, and ultimately we got an epic Amelia Perez rant at the beginning, so I will
We
definitely be
need to
clipping
make
that.
that viral, honestly.
I'm definitely clipping that. Definitely clipping that. But yeah, so next episode will be the Oscars one. We're going to look at or I think we're going to. I don't really know how we're going to do it. I think we may do a different one, maybe like a bit like the episode 4, where we went all through all of them. Maybe go through all the categories and look through
Yeah, there'll be a lot to
all the
digest
winners.
there. There
Yeah,
isn't necessarily
maybe.
much coming out in terms of new movies soon either, but I think we
Mhm.
were going to look at Mickey 17.
Yeah, it just depends on when it comes out. That's all.
It's out on
Only because
March 7th.
it's only because that film's been delayed so many times. I'm a bit anxious to actually say, will it even come out? That's all.
Right, yeah.
That's all. That's all it is. But if maybe we could talk about it in part one, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But definitely next time is an Oscar special. We'll talk about some old Best Picture winners for part three. Um, that's definitely. I'm looking forward to talking about that because this is like my
Yeah.
wheelhouse.
And we could
But
talk about the
yeah,
things that we possibly would have thought would win the categories that if we were nominating films.
yeah.
Justice for Ricky Stenicki, that's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're gonna have a good time with it. So
Yeah.
stick with us for next episode. Episode is it gonna be 8
Mhm.
now? I can't believe we're actually getting
Episode
close
eight.
to like
Episode eight.
that's like two-thirds
Double
of the
digits.
year. We
Double
get there.
digits. Yeah.
Double,
But
yeah,
The Minecraft episode will be episode 9, and
crack episode.
if you know, like the like old like music curses of like the Curse of the Ninth Symphony,
Okay,
where it's like like sort of like famous like musicians like composers pass away before completing their ninth work.
right.
So are we gonna pass away before we get to the
If it means we don't have to watch the Minecraft movie.
No, we will have to. That's how we die.
Oh
That's
yeah,
how
that's
it
how we die.
happens. That's how it happens. Anyway, we will
Wow.
see you all in the next episode. And until then, take care and have a great day.
Yes.
Like, subscribe to all our channels, and yeah, have a good day.
Yes. Thanks for watching, guys. And remember, like and subscribe. Comment below your thoughts on the movies, your thoughts on your favorite romance movies, thoughts on the Amelia Perez rant, thoughts on the Wolfman if you've seen it. Just give it
Yeah,
all to us, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Ciao.
take care.